A very good morning from Singapore and a warm welcome to our panel on building Asia's sustainable business. My name is Ziki. I'm the Executive Director of the Community and Brand team here at SGInnovate. For those of you who don't know SGInnovate, allow me to share a little bit about who we are and what we do. SGInnovate is a private entity owned by the Singapore government. We believe that the world has hard problems that can be addressed by deep tech. Our mission is to work with entrepreneurial scientists to build deep tech startups from Singapore for the world to address some of these hard problems. We do this by investing in promising deep tech startups, grooming and matching talent with startups as they build and scale their companies. We firmly believe in the power of the community and partnerships. As part of our work, we organize events such as this to bring like-minded, passionate people together to share knowledge and to drive conversations and inspire innovation. Today, SGInnovate has the largest and fastest growing deep tech community in Singapore with close to 70,000 individuals in our community. By joining this event, you are now part of our community, and I encourage you to get involved. Be engaged. By using the chat function on Zoom, tell us which country you're joining us from, and build contacts with the other attendees here. And I'm very happy that today we have a panel of experts with us, and together we'll be exploring the topic of sustainability from the perspective of businesses in Asia. Do take the opportunity to tap the expertise of our esteemed panelists and ask questions via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Vote for the questions you like, and we will get to them throughout our session. Okay, well, Earth Day was celebrated about 2 weeks ago, and we've seen a lot of focus and attention on the topic of sustainability. With greater awareness of sustainability and the urgency to address it, the topic on hand today is especially timely. Alongside the many commitments to reducing emissions and clean energy adoption, seeing the world's leaders come together to tackle this critical issue is a big step in the right direction. Well, more can certainly be done in our corner of the globe. Asia today is home to 60% of the world's population, and we're expected to deliver 60% of the world's growth by 2030. Much of this will be led by the large markets, China, India, Southeast Asia, where the growing middle class will likely influence global consumption trends and drive the region's economic development. But in contrast to the region's contribution to the global economy, only 17 of the 100 firms featured in the recent Corporate Knight 2021 Global 100 Index of the world's most sustainable corporations were from Asia. Working to hit our sustainable development goals by 2030 is a challenging endeavor, and it cannot be accomplished without the support and action from businesses. To achieve these goals, innovation needs to be at the core of our actions. We need new approaches to tackling problems. As a community, we need to come together to collaborate and foster public-private partnerships between corporates, government bodies, startups. Innovation can only be achieved when we collaborate with others, leverage each other's strengths to achieve greater outcomes for the common good. And nowhere is action more urgently needed on the various measures of sustainability than in Asia. Just look at the recent floodings that we've had and the different adverse weather events. And these impact many low-lying coastal cities in emerging economies and are expected to cause a whopping US $1.2 trillion in damage by 2050. And we're talking about the potential displacement of over 150 million people in countries such as Bangladesh, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia. Another area is food security. And over 800 billion US dollars in investments are required in the next 10 years to produce enough food to meet Asia's needs. If we fail to resolve this, it would threaten the global food supply and trigger a regional food crisis. While progress has been made to address some sustainable development goals, others such as access to clean water, sanitation, building sustainable cities, and achieving gender equality still have some ways to go. So today we have a great panel from across the private sector, and we'll be talking about how each of these panelists in their roles are playing in addressing some of these sustainability issues. I would like to call on our panelists, because you would do a much better introduction of yourselves than I would, to please give a 1-minute introduction about yourselves, your role in your organization. Can I please start with Aya Tokunaga, the Executive Director of the Sustainability Department at ASI. And Aya?
Hi, Zeki. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Aya Tokunaga, Executive Director of Sustainability of ASI. ASI is a Japanese pharmaceutical company based in Tokyo, which operates globally. And we have about 80 years of history, and our expertise is in neurology and oncology. We focus on, contributing to patients.
Thank you, Aya. And Panil Sarin, Global Brand Director of Lifebuoy at Unilever.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I've spent about 15 years at Unilever, and I am part of the brand and business, not as a separate sustainability team. I think that gives you an insight into how Unilever does the sustainability. Hopefully you guys know Unilever. It's a large consumer goods company with big brands like Dove, and my brand Lifebuoy. I'm very excited to be here and exchange our views. Thank you.
Thank you, Panil. And Yosavi Niran Vichaya, the head of Deep Tech Ventures from the Corporate Innovation Office at SGInnovate, please.
Hi, thank you, Siki and SGInnovate, inviting me to be a part of this interesting panel. So it's my pleasure to be here with everybody. So I'm Yosavi, I'm the head of Deep Tech Ventures at SCG. So just a brief introduction about the Siam Cement Group of SCG is that we are quite a long history company, around 110 years old. We are a large conglomerate based in Thailand, but we have operation in many countries in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and Singapore. So we operate in three main sub-industry. The first one is chemicals business, cement and building materials, and also in packaging business as well. My responsibility here at SCG is that are twofold. So the first one is that I'm leading the corporate venture capital team that invests in deep tech and clean tech startup globally. So for the past year, we have invested in around 10 startups, specifically in the topic of clean tech. And the other part, which is not the less important, is that I'm also in charge of the partnership program that we bridge startup from all over the world to build the business case with the business unit here at SCG. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. That's lovely to know that you're looking at a lot of startups as you are kind of navigating through the investments and innovation for SGInnovate. Well, thank you for that. And thank you to our panelists for joining us today. So let's start and talk about the underrepresentation of Asian businesses. I mean, to have only 17 out of this 200 in this list of world's most sustainable companies. Is this accurate, do you think? And do businesses here really lag behind their Western counterparts? I would ask, all our panelists to chime in. Maybe Panil, I'll start with you.
I think to me, it is a reflection on the fact that possibly for large masses of our consumers, they're not able to see the value of sustainability the way we'd imagine them to see. And while I'm saying that, at the same breath, I can share data with you guys, which is from Kantar's report, which suggests that consumer brands are also looking for brands to articulate purpose that means to them. So I think where I'm going with this, with both of these point of views, is that how do you define sustainability? And is that sustainability relevant to the large masses of consumers sitting in this part of the world? And therefore, what can organizations based here do? I'm sure there is a lot more to cover ground on that. So I do feel that there is an area of improvement for us there. Having said that, I think each of our brands, for example, from a Unilever perspective, from a Lifebuoy perspective, which is a very large mass brand that is available across many households in most of Asia, I would say that we're doing it at our own way of helping improve what comes under SDG 6, which is to improve water sanitation and hygiene by teaching hand washing behavior. So as a hygiene brand, we've taken it upon ourselves. So I think there are ways to bring in sustainability that I do see companies do. But when you compare it to the Western world, yes, I do think that there is some scope of improvement in talking a more relevant language to our audiences based here.
Well, thank you. Yosavi, do you have a point of view on that?
Yeah, I think I didn't have a chance to go through the report, so I may not be the best person to comment on the validity of the list. But I'm more familiar with another report called the JSI, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and I see that there are a few companies from Asia, SCG included in the list. So I personally think that the issue of sustainability is becoming an increasingly important here in Asia. However, I believe that there are notable challenges for the company in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, on the issue of sustainability. I think the most important one would be there is the less supportive regulatory environment, both on the incentive side and the pressure on the corporate to put sustainability on the top priority. Like, for example, among like 10 countries in Asia, Singapore is the only country that has the carbon tax or like carbon pricing. The rest of Southeast Asian country doesn't have this kind of like policy. So I think I would say that the demand from regulator, a customer, and employee for the corporate to pursue the journey of sustainability, it's maybe feel more weakly here in this region when compared to the Western countries, I think.
Thank you. Aya?
Sure. So this global 100 index by Corporate Knights, I think this is one of many sustainability indices. So so we should not pay too much attention to the ranking or the number of Asian companies. I think the number of Asian companies change. In some years, I think in the past we had there were as many as 30 in the past, and methodologies, the criteria changes every year, so we don't have to pay too much attention to the number or the ranking. I think every index uses different measurement, like MSCI, Dow Jones, 50, they all have different criteria and different priority. And also there may be some regional advantage or disadvantage depending on the governance style, more European style or American style, and so on. So in that sense, maybe it may be a good idea to have a new ESG or sustainability index by an Asian company, and that may in that way we may have a different, more representation from Asian companies.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think, yeah, the point about different rankings or different studies use different metrics and measurements, definitely a good point. I want to ask Panel though, like you talked a little bit about consumers' expectations of brands, but from the FMCG sector, do consumers pay attention at all to such rankings? There is a lot more attention and interest, especially from our millennials and from the population at large in terms of the impact of climate change in the areas of sustainability, right? Do you think consumers pay attention? Does it impact your business? The consumers' expectations of brands evolving? Anil?
Yes, so consumer expectations are evolving, that's yes. Do consumers pay attention to such rankings? Not necessarily. I think consumers pay attention to what matters to them. So if you are talking about a cause that is dear to them, for example, again, I'm going to keep giving you examples from my brand because that's my a day in and day job. But if I'm talking about how I can prevent illnesses and I can prevent heartburn for some mothers, that is relevant to them. And to that extent, if I'm teaching them how, teaching their kids in schools how to wash their hands with soap, or I'm providing a telehealth service which can help them keep their health and hygiene, that's relevant to them. So, apart from telling them why my bar soap is the best and it has the best fragrance and it gives the best clean, the fact that I'm talking something relevant to her life, her larger life, makes it very, very much something that consumers are interested in. And you can see this as a trend across all consumer companies, consumer facing brands. There is the buzzword of purpose marketing that you will see that every brand has taken up to talk about, and all success stories are of those brands which are able to talk a purpose that is relevant to the consumers and are able to talk it in a very authentic manner, coupled with doing something actually about it. So it's all okay for me to say, hey, you know what, I'll keep your family healthy. But then if I don't follow it up with some actual on-ground action, so for example, the act of going and teaching hand washing in schools or going and teaching it to the frontline workers in small villages in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, if I didn't do that, the consumer would know that I'm just, that it's a farce. I don't really mean it. So I think the authenticity needs to come along with the relevance. And to that extent, very much the consumer has evolved. But rankings, the particular rankings here, I myself went through it and I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, this was a ranking that existed. So blame me, I'm a consumer too. So I don't think so that ranking alone matters.
Yeah, I think it's more like, how you're the brand chief, right? I think it's more about building that brand, isn't it? It's about the perception, it's about how you engage with your customers and their feelings towards the brand, in terms of what it stands for, right? That is important to consumers. Yeah. Let's move on to the healthcare industries. It's kind of interesting, right? The healthcare industry is among the most carbon intensive service sectors in the industrialized world. And the amount of greenhouse gas emissions is really, has a huge impact on the climate. So as a pharmaceutical company, how is SI structuring its policies and strategies to tackle this issue?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Before going, to your question from you, Ziki, I want to comment a little bit on what Panya said in her Q&A. I really agree with what you said, that you need to have, if every brand has should serve the fulfill this purpose and also has a story that story that goes along with the brand, and also paying attention to customers, and that's what matters, and rather than the ranking and so on. And I think I agree with you. Okay, so your question, Zeki, your question about the environment.
Yes.
So pharmaceutical sector, there are many industries, and pharmaceuticals also has GHG, CO2 emissions and so on. But compared with other sectors like steel and energy sectors, pharmaceutical sector's GHG emission is small. It's about less than 1% of all overall industry in Japan. And however, it doesn't mean that we don't have to do much about the environment. I don't think so at all. ESG sustainability agenda is getting more and more important. And corporate responsibility is also getting more and more important. Health and environment are closely related. So clean air. We need to have clean air for health and everything. So And also the healthcare business model is changing. You know, in the in the past, current, and also in the past, you know, we pay more attention to treating, curing disease, but going forward, you know, more emphasis will be placed for prevention. So that means, you know, the customer base will be expanded from patients to everybody. So that means, you know, how pharmaceutical companies' corporate responsibility will be, you know, will get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing challenge. I take the point that, yes, you know, pharma companies are not the only ones with regards to the CO2 emissions. I think this is a pressing, it's a pressing issue globally, right? And it's not just any one particular industry, but certainly a lot of industries that contribute to that. Maybe, you know, in the construction area as well, right? With regards to waste management, for example. Yosevi, could you share with us like how the Cement Group has applied circular economy principles towards improving your processes or the lives of communities in the business that you operate in, Yosevi?
Thank you for the question, Siki. So at SCG, as I mentioned, that we play in three main business, like not only like construction material business, but we also play in like chemical business and packaging business. And as you know that there are special challenge, especially on cement production and also on like chemical production in terms of like carbon dioxide emissions, and also in the issue of a circular economy. So at SCG, we really emphasize on the circular economy and has put sustainability on our top corporate agenda for many years, like 20 years ago. And as we think about the circular economy, we think about the word 3 R's for like reduce, reuse, and recycle. So for reduce, we always try to find a better way to reduce the resource use in our operations. Like, for example, we recently developed the new cement type, which is called a hydraulic cement, to replace the normal like Portland cement, which this kind of technology or innovation can reduce the greenhouse gas emission during cement production significantly. And for other business like packaging business unit, we have come up with the technology called green carton, which use the paper carton, which use less material, around like 30% saving on the material with the same strength. These are the example of how we try to reduce the material use in our production process. We also developed the floating solar solution to help reduce the energy and cost saving, and to reduce land use for solar installation. That's on the chemical business side. The example from the chemical business side is that we invest in the chemical recycling technology. We just announced this year that we will recycle the post-consumer plastic waste and then make it to use as the feedstock, the virgin feedstock for the chemical process. So there are many initiatives that we are doing, and we are continue to focus on doing this kind of initiative to reduce waste and focus on circular economy with the commodity.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And it's interesting. And I do want later on to talk a little bit about what you do from the investment side, because I would imagine that you'd be looking at a lot of these different companies that you've just talked about. And, you know, from SGInnovate, we've actually invested, you know, we see so many startups, you know, there's a lot of innovation that comes from startups. And I'd like to also get to, you know, what you think, what role startups play in your investment decisions and in the role of, you know, helping to get us all to an area of sustainability. So let's park that a little bit. But I was reading with great interest on the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. And I believe last year was the 10th and final year of this great plan that Unilever embarked on. And it was, I would like to hear a lot more about that, because even though it's done, 10 years is gone, how has that, how did the company perform in terms of the objectives that was set 10 years ago? And has that kind of like translated to changing the culture and the DNA of Unilever and how you guys work, play, operate?
100%, Siggy, 100%. Of the 10 years, I grew up in those 10 years in the company, since I'm completing 15 years now. So I have seen from the time that I joined the company, when we kicked this off, to what I see and I hear around me, to the innovation plans we do, to the communication that we create, to the culture that we have. I would, however, argue that doing good was always in Unilever's DNA. The birth of Lifebuoy soap, which has been 125 years back, was born to save people from dying of cholera during, World War I times. And again, during the Spanish flu, we were against a brand that was helping to prevent illnesses from spreading. So I would say to a large extent, it always existed in our DNA, and it came out to the world in 2010. In the last 10 years, across the 3 pillars that Unilever had called out, we've made significant progress. We have also learned a lot. The biggest progress has actually been on the pillar that Lifebuoy sits on, which is on the health and hygiene pillar, because we were able to actually reach 1 billion consumers with our message of hand washing with soap, which helps prevent infection. So when should you wash? How should you wash? And so on and so forth. And consumers obviously see the benefit of doing that. It's the right habit, or it could be even the oral hygiene interventions that we've made. What we have learned, and we have learned quite a bit, is that number one, like I said, I made this point earlier, probably in light of Lifebuoy, if you're not talking about authentic, an authentic cause or an authentic purpose, then it doesn't flow naturally into your business. Then it's like a force fit that is never going to happen. If you have to, it has to become intrinsic to how you do things around you. So we very much have brought it into the way we do marketing, the way we run businesses. There is no project that starts today without sustainability at the heart of it. So I think that's a huge step change from before. So one, it should naturally flow into what you do, and you have to be authentic about it. Number two, I would say, I think the biggest learning is that we alone as Unilever can barely achieve anything. It needs a systems approach. It needs the entire ecosystem to come together, the public, the private, you already mentioned that, and very much so. I mean, even for us, let me give you a small example of, and I'm obviously going to talk about consumer campaigns. When the pandemic broke last year, the COVID-19 pandemic, the communication message that Lifebuoy said was, please wash your hands with soap, use Lifebuoy, Dettol, Safeguard, Protects, any brand. And these are my competitors. I would be, in my work plan rated against them. But the reason we said that is because when you're fighting a cause or an issue like the pandemic, you need everybody to join hands, all private players, public, private, all sectors to come together. So that has been the second big learning. The third one, of course, is how do you measure? Because the very definition of sustainability means different things to different businesses, to different sectors, and it's very difficult to measure impact. But if you don't measure it, then how do you track your progress on it? So I think there's a lot of scope of development there. And I know that as Unilever, we're constantly trying to evolve and learn. And I think the last learning I would say is that there are causes and issues, that seem very big at a certain point, but there could be another cause it evolves into. So how agile are you to keep up with the times, to see where do you need to move your interest into? And how connected are you to people at large to hear them and say, okay, hey, this is what matters them, what matters to them a lot more. So I would say those roughly are the 4 learnings that we've had. And going ahead, I can already tell you that the new compass, as we call it, very much builds on what we've done in the last 10 years. So I see my company completely committed, passionate, invested. I can speak on behalf of me and my team, completely committed and passionate about this space. So that's been the journey on
That's fantastic. So basically you're saying that it's really possible to have your cake and eat it when it comes to sustainability, right? In terms of balancing
Absolutely.
business and sustainability priorities, which was
Yes.
another question that I had for you, but you've already answered that. So that is certainly heartening to know. But I want to ask Aya and Yosevi as well. In your opinion, right? If you look at your internal operations, what's your view? How can businesses cultivate a sustainability first mindset within the organization? What are the obstacles you faced in the past? Maybe Yosevi, I'll start with you. Do you have an opinion on that? A first-hand experience?
Yeah, so I think to build the sustainability first mindset in the organization, I believe there are like 4 components that people, structure, process, and system. The framework that we use at SCT that we call 2P, 2S. But I will just speak only on the first 2, which is the people and the structures. So I think it starts with the people. So I think it starts with the leader, the number 1 in the organization, that the company or the leader has to make the strong commitment and truly commit to the journey. And it's also the communication that the leader needs to communicate to the employees of the importance of these sustainabilities. So at SCT, we have decades ago, we have put sustainability on top of our corporate agenda and has keep that promise throughout the year. So most of the employee in the company knows that sustainability is important. It's in our corporate culture, and it's in our DNA. Another important is the structure of the organization. You have to make sure that people understand that you design the structure to show that sustainability is important in the organization. For example, we have designed the structure that the most senior people in our organization is also the sustainability leader in the business unit as well. We also have the senior director in charge of sustainability full-time. So I think that's the key factor and ingredients to help build the sustainability first mindset. Thank you.
Thank you. Aya, do you have?
Yep.
Thoughts?
So Yosabi said that structure and people are important, and I cannot agree with you more. In ASI's case, we think that our number 1 priority is customer satisfaction. So what our purpose is to serve patients and make them happy. And sales and profits, these things are coming later as a result. So what we do have to be serving customer satisfaction and also sustainability agenda. So I think having this culture is very important, and also we have this corporate philosophy. It's included in the article of corporation, which means article of corporation is like a company's law. So so in ASI's case, it is stipulated that we have to fulfill customer satisfaction and also sustainability agenda. And as a result, profits and sales come. So that's the way of I think cultivating a culture.
Okay, thank you, Aya. I do want to get to some of the audience questions, but I also want to ask Yosevi, in terms of what you're doing from the investments perspective, what is the sustainability criteria that you apply when you're making decisions on strategic investments? So do you have any KPIs or metrics that in deciding whether it's aligned with your SDG sustainability agenda, with your cement group's sustainability agenda? And we talked a little bit about the role of startups. I want to understand, when you're looking at investments, what is the role that startups play in your investment decisions?
Thank you, Siki. So, as I mentioned, that SCG has emphasized and put ESG as our top corporate agenda for a long time. The sustainability has embedded in corporate culture, and employees are mindful when proposing or making an investment decision.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Science Cement Group was it Dow Jones that you guys have been always on top? So I want to give the team, the audience here some perspective, because I thought that was very interesting that, you guys have been always been the top, if I'm not wrong, right, of the most sustainable companies within the Dow Jones Sustainable Companies Index. Is that right?
Yes, we are ranked #1 in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index in the category of construction material company.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, as I said, that our employee knows that sustainability is very important. So when proposing or making investment decision, they always keep that in mind. But the formal approach the more formal approach that we use to evaluate investment decision is that every investment that go up to the executive committee, we require the environmental impact risk assessment as the part of the study that the business unit has to do and to defend. They also have to provide the mitigation plan if there is some risk that the investment may have some impact on the environmental. So that's one of the formal approach that we use to make sure that people really understand about environmental impact when making investments. And another approach that we think that interesting is that we also emphasize on storytelling, and we create the certificate that we call SCG Green Choice, and that would encourage the business unit to come up with a new product or the process improvement that related to sustainability. We have the central committee to evaluate the certificates every month, and try to give this certificate to the business unit that has do some good works on that. So that's another way to promote ESG in the company. So more in terms of the corporate venture investment or startup investment, we know that technology is very important or is very essential to innovations, and many technology might not be ready at the moment in terms of cost. So we tend to try to invest in the emerging technology that might have a cost that the cost can make sense in the future. We have set up the funds called the Deep Tech or Clean Tech Fund, so which is $150 million, and we invest. This fund is invest mainly on the clean tech and deep tech startup. So we have the investment committee every month that our CEO is the leader in this investment committee, and we present and talk about clean tech startup every month. So the clean tech or sustainability issue is always a part of our startup investment, and we are really focused on this.
Thank you. Well, we've got a few questions here. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. Actually, some of them we've kind of like addressed, but I want to take this one, which talks about how do we get all staff involved and on board in sustainability and the circular economy across the Asian region? From your perspective in your companies, how do you get your staff involved in the sustainability agenda? Perhaps I could start with Panil.
Yeah, to my mind, again, I guess I'm going to repeat a bit of what I've just said. One is, how do you define sustainability for your business? If it's not linked with what your business is doing, then try as you much, you will not be able to engage the talent in the workforce, or absolutely anybody. It will just not flow into it. Once you've identified what the agenda is, then I guess it's about how do you bring it center to the plans that you're driving. It obviously has to be driven from the top, and it has to percolate into every single thing that you do. If you're running, and I saw another question from the audience about a CSR, how do we do CSR, or how do we showcase CSR? I mean, for me, the biggest learning about being in Unilever has been that we don't have a separate CSR department. We do not.
Mm-hmm.
I am from the brand, I'm from the business, and I'm doing sustainability, which suggests to you that I cannot exist without doing my definition of sustainability, and whatever Unilever wants to do as sustainability cannot exist without the brand doing it. So I think for me, it's absolutely interlinked. And that's how you engage people, because it becomes part of their day job. And remember, again, relevant cause, relevant sustainability issue linked to your business and living up to it authentically. There is no way that a person in your organization will not lean into it.
That's a very good point, right? The authenticity versus a tick in the box, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Aya, from your organization?
Yeah, so there needs to be a link between sustainability and corporate philosophy. And once there is a link, once sustainability is embedded in the corporate philosophy, I think then whatever business you do, then sustainability agenda will be automatically installed. In Eisai's case, each department has to think about what they can do to contribute to the patients, and each department actually spends time with the patients to learn their feelings, what their needs are, what they can do to to contribute to health and also for sustainability. And that's that way. And we showcase good examples, good results. We share among companies and give awards and so on. And this way, good sustainability activities are shared among companies, and then I think that way, some other people may do something similar.
So it's celebrating achievements and encouraging others to do the same, so that we could, they'll be encouraged to achieve that, to be able to get that award, right?
Right.
One of the areas. What about Yosevi, from your perspective? Anything to add?
Yeah, just to add to what Panu and Aya said, is that I think that you need to build sustainability as the part of the operations. Of the company operation. I mean that you need to balance between sustainability and also make sure that in terms of economic, it makes sense as well. I think to make sustainability going forward in the company, you have to make sure that the project that you make is not in the expense of the economics of the company. So the sustainability project that we make at SCG, we always ask is that the way to make this also the profitable project and also the sustainability focus at the same time. So that's why we look for the innovation and technology that can help reduce the cost and maybe make the sustainability as a part of how we make profit at SCG.
Yeah. I just also want to bring to light to the audience and to the panelists here as well. We talk about sustainability. A lot of times we talk about sustainability from the environmental, from the climate front, right? But truthfully, sustainability is a very wide topic, isn't it? It is not just on the environment. It's about sustainability of business operations. It's about sustainability from the human resource perspective, sustainability and things such as gender and equality and workplace environment. These fall under the sustainability umbrella. So I think that while we are, today's topic, we're talking a lot more from the climate perspective. I think we just need to recognize that sustainability as a topic, it covers more than just the environment and climate, right? So I think those are other important areas as well that companies are addressing and should be looking at. Interesting comment that was in the chat function that talked about we're always depending on governments for policies and, but sometimes a lot of things that happen are really, it needs to be from the grassroots, right? So, and then there was another question here about support from that. Yeah, I think there was a question here about Southeast Asian companies have less support from their government to drive sustainability within their businesses. So how can businesses start on this journey, especially for smaller, medium enterprises? Maybe I could start with Yosavi, since we're talking about Southeast Asia. You have a thought?
Yeah, I think you are right that there's a special challenge in Southeast Asia companies. So I think the government hasn't been doing enough in terms of in terms of like policy to encourage sustainability in Southeast Asia. So I think the way I see in the future is for the government and for the company to do some sort of collaboration together, because the government is the one who can set the incentive for the company and for the corporates to focus on sustainability. So as to your question about like us, maybe like small or mid-sized company in Southeast Asia to start doing a sustainability agenda, I think the best way is to partners with the large corporate that have the larger resource and have maybe the corporate agenda that is focused on sustainability. I think the corporate like SCG, we are willing to work with and partner with a startup or like SME who are aligned in terms of like the policy and the direction of to sustainability. So I think collaboration is with the government and with the large corporate is the way that the small and medium-sized company can maybe pursue this sustainability journey.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from Panil or Aya?
I think the only other thought that I would give is, in my opinion, there is a bit of a shift in mindset that possibly we all need as we look into the future, which is, Ziki, you mentioned this already, that sustainability has many dimensions to it. And if you were to look at the UNDP's SDG 17 goals as some sort of an indication of where you could play, even as a small and medium, business. So first, to Yosavi's point, SDG number 17 is exactly around partnerships, so in collaboration. So that itself, that is the way to operate it. I think also looking into the future, at least in my opinion, business without sustainability cannot exist. Like, it's going to be intrinsic to whatever you do. So whatever be your sector, whatever be your business idea, if it is not got sustainability in one of its forms baked right into it, I would rethink of that plan. It's pardon me for saying this, but I would actually rethink of whether that's something that you want to invest for the future.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Thank you. Aya, you have anything to add?
Sure. So I have been thinking why Japanese companies are so very active in sustainability agenda in general. Is that there is a United Nations Global Compact. This is the largest sustainability initiative globally, and all over the world. There are about 12,000 companies or organizations are part of this organization for moving sustainability agenda. And among 12,000, 400, so 1/3 of the participants are Japanese organizations. I think this is one of the reasons why Japanese companies are very interested in active in sustainability agenda. So one way of learning the the latest trend and so on of sustainability is to join Global Compact and learn what's going on. And also and through this network you can find your other peers who who are interested in the same agenda, and perhaps you can advocate the importance of pursuing sustainability agenda. And that way you can also approach the government and state your opinion.
I've always been amazed by Japan. Whenever we go to Japan, and like when we rent a place, right? The way you even separate your trash, for example, I think it's amazing. And that's really where we're talking about, it needs to be from the community, right? Every single one of us needs to do our part. It is not about waiting for the government regulations, waiting for the company's laws and rules and policies, but it's what we as individuals can do. I mean, it's the same as what we're going through now with the pandemic, right? We have to do our part. Every single one of us has to do our part to curb this devil of a virus, for us to go back to life as normal. We cannot keep waiting for people to tell us what to do. We must take control, be the masters of our own destiny, to do our part to make things happen, right? And when we have like-minded, passionate people who are passionate about a certain cause, and when we get together, magic happens. And that's why, for us at SGInnovate, we are very passionate about the power of community, which is why we are so deliberate in organizing these sessions and these conversations, because they are important conversations. And when we drive these partnerships across the ecosystem, that's when things will happen. So not wait for people to tell us what to do, but let's just do it, because it's the little effort that happens that makes it all work, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm on a bit of a rant, but but I think that's really important. We are 5 minutes away, and I wanted to, this is a very interesting question from Ruben from A-Star, where he talks about, okay, I guess it's the conflict. What if sustainability of the business model goes against sustainability of the environment? So I guess it's back to the question of cost versus benefit, or, how do we address that? Panil?
Yeah, so, our the Kantar report that I was referring to earlier actually has data to suggest that consumers are willing to pay more for a product or a brand that they believe is actually trying to do some good to the areas that matter to them. So, for example, from a large consumer base perspective in Asia versus, say, climate change, what matters probably is something around health, well-being, or ending poverty, right? And for a brand or a product that is trying to solve that, they were actually willing to pay more. So first, there could be a potential business case for a relevant sort of sustainability issue that you're taking on. But if it is at conflict, the question to ask ourselves is, what is your definition of being in conflict? Do you really think that a business can continue being unsustainable to the environment and be sustainable in the long term? Are you going to have a business in the long term if you ended up being unsustainable to the environment? So I think some of those have to be brought in, those conversations have to be brought in earlier. So it's between a bit of short-term and medium and long-term thinking. And depending on the vision and goal you have for your company, I'm pretty sure that you'll be choosing something which is right for the environment and the people.
Great, thank you. Aya, you have anything there, or Yosovi, any either of you?
Sure. A short comment. I think long-term vision is definitely very important. ASI product provides DC treatments for neglected tropical diseases free of charge. For if you look at this from a short term, it's a cost. ASI is providing, giving drugs for free. But if you have a long-term vision, we think that by donating these drugs, we think that the people who are sick and could not work will get over the disease and will be able to work. And in the future, middle class economies will flourish, and middle class will emerge, and pharmaceutical market will emerge. Not just not in 10 years or 20-year term, but if you look at 30, 40 years, this will be a good investment. So definitely it's important to have a long-term vision.
Thank you. Yosavi?
Yes, just a short comment to add is that I think we have to make sustainability goals together with the profitability as well, like investing in clean tech, clean tech investment. Right now, it's actually help reduce save costs, right? And you invest in like solar and wind energy. It's actually cheaper than investing in fossil-based energy right now. So I think it's important to make this road go together, and this will help the company to continue to be sustainability and also profitability at the same time.
Thank you. There's so many questions. I wish we could get to all of them. There's some great questions here, which unfortunately we weren't able to get to, but we are almost out of time. We've got 2 minutes before the hour. And I do want to get some final thoughts from the panelists. We've covered quite a bit, but as we said, sustainability is not just about the environment. It really cuts across business processes, gender diversity, and work environment. A lot of these all fall under sustainability, but I would like to get final thoughts from the panelists. Maybe I could start with you, Panil.
Sure. I think I would just end by repeating some of the principles that we try to adopt in Lifebuoy, which I personally found makes a lot of sense to me, and I hope it helps as many. To pick up a cause that you believe is relevant to the audiences that you serve, to be authentic about it by doing something which is on the ground, to keep your product or your whatever is the heart of what your business idea is, along with sustainability at the heart of it. So it's not a separate track running. And lastly, not the least, to make any real difference on the ground, to keep being consistent. The consistency of 125 years is paying Lifebuoy even till date. And even as this pandemic is raging around us, I really hope we continue to be able to do good and save lives.
Thank you. Yosavi?
Yes, I just want to end by this, that there's still a long way to go in the path of to sustainability. Like as many countries has announced that they would try to achieve a net zero by to 2050. So we still have a long way to go. And I think one of the essential aspects of achieving this target is to focus on innovation. So I think the investment in innovation and the policy to support innovation, or even the conversation around like how we can make innovation in clean technology or sustainability technology, it's really important that we have to continue to have. And I think SGInnovate has done a good job on this already. So yeah, I think innovation is important.
Thank you. Aya?
Yeah, just one word. Have a long-term vision. Not just a short, but a long-term vision. That's the way to sustainability.
Lovely. So it's about being authentic. It's about ensuring that we know what is required from the business, and having a very good long-term, be very focused in terms of the long-term vision and mission that we're after. And with that, I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank all our attendees. I apologize we did not get to all of the questions, but I know that a lot of the topics that were asked in the questions were addressed throughout the session. I also want to thank the Japan Science and Technology Agency and JETRO, whom we're partnered with for this very lovely session. And with that, I thank everyone for joining us. And please remember, it always starts from the ground up. It's the power of the unity of everyone together as a sum of all parts. Let's not wait for things to happen. Let's make things happen. And with that, I wish everyone a good day, and please stay safe. And thank you for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.